Amanda sat across from me with her hands clasped on the desk, while I stared at the wall trying to absorb everything that had shifted in the last 8 days. My entire existence had been rearranged by a 147-second clip. 3 years before that moment, I had been shivering inside a crumbling bathtub in a decaying farmhouse, asking myself if I had destroyed my own future by accepting what my father considered scraps. Now, a venture capital firm was requesting a sit-down. Wedding coordinators were locking in dates 14 months out, and people I had never met were describing my lavender fields as something out of a dream. None of it had settled in my chest yet. Amanda watched me for a beat before she spoke. There's something you need to understand. Families like yours typically distribute assets according to who they believe will elevate the family name. Your brother received the apartment because they saw him as the obvious winner. You received the land because they assumed it would disappear quietly. But the moment that property becomes something worth having, the entire equation shifts. I narrowed my eyes. What are you saying exactly? I'm saying that people who looked straight through you for years may suddenly start remembering your last name. At the time, I told myself she was being dramatic. 2 weeks later, I would understand she had actually been too generous with her estimate of how bad things were coming. The meeting with Viridian Ventures fell on July 3rd, 2024. Timothy Schaefer drove up from North Carolina and pulled straight into the farm. I had prepared myself for some detached executive in a tailored suit, but he stepped out in jeans and worn hiking boots. He spent close to 2 hours walking the property alongside me before the word money ever entered the conversation. That caught me completely off guard. Most people who showed up after the video went viral treated the farm like a backdrop. They wanted pictures, they wanted aerial footage. They wanted to stand in the rows and tell me how peaceful it felt, while I mentally ran irrigation numbers in the background. Timothy operated differently. He asked about soil density, yield forecasts, seasonal staffing capacity, water retention, infrastructure, wholesale margins, and long-range sustainability. At one point, he stopped near the west field and stood quietly watching the lavender bend in the breeze. You did all of this yourself? Mostly, I said. Mostly means yes. I let myself smile a little. Yeah, mostly yes. He gave a slow nod. This isn't social media momentum. This is actual infrastructure. That phrase never fully left me. Infrastructure. Not one person in my family had ever spoken about something I created with that kind of respect. We settled onto the porch afterward as the sky turned, the fields copper and violet. Timothy opened a folder and placed a single page in front of me. Viridian Ventures is prepared to invest $2.4 million into scaling this operation, he said. We would support expansion, develop branded product lines, grow your tourism presence, and build this into a destination property. I looked at the paper without blinking. $2.4 million. 3 years earlier, I could not cover a water heater. What stake would you take? I asked carefully. 25% equity. Amanda had walked me through this exact scenario. I drew a slow breath. No. Timothy blinked once. No. 25 is too much. 15? Instead of stiffening, he smiled. Good. He leaned back in his chair. That tells me your attorney did her job. We sat across from each other for 3 hours. When it was over, we had an agreement. Viridian Ventures would invest $2.1 million in exchange for 14% ownership. I would keep complete creative and operational authority. The farmhouse and the original acreage could never be transferred without my direct consent. After he drove away, I sat alone on that porch, well past dark. I thought about the sticky notes still tucked inside my wallet. Barely worth the land. I laughed for nearly a full minute. Then I sat there and cried. Not over the money, not even over finally being taken seriously. I cried because for the first time in my life, someone had looked at something I had built from nothing and treated it as though it genuinely mattered. Construction began in August 2024, and everything accelerated from there. We laid walking paths through the lavender rows, expanded the irrigation network, constructed an outdoor pavilion for events, gutted and rebuilt the farmhouse interior, and brought on local workers throughout. By October, I had 12 people on payroll. Mrs. Chen became something of a neighborhood legend because she went around telling everyone she had always known I was heading somewhere remarkable before the rest of the town caught on. You could have said something sooner, I told her. One morning while carrying bags inside her front door, she waved her hand and laughed. Honey, I did tell you. I called you brave. I later understood that was her particular code for stubborn enough to make it. My following on Instagram crossed 600,000 by November. Travel writers began showing up on weekends. Hudson Valley Magazine put the farm on their autumn cover. A luxury lifestyle outlet declared it the most striking lavender destination along the entire East Coast. Reservations surged. For the first time since finishing college, I stopped mentally calculating my account balance before buying milk. Then Thanksgiving arrived. My mother called 2 days before the holiday. We're doing dinner at the house again. You should come. Her tone carried that same cool formality she had always kept with me, like she was confirming a reservation rather than inviting her daughter. No acknowledgement of what had happened. No congratulations. Just distance dressed up as politeness. I nearly declined, but something in me needed to witness it with my own eyes. When I walked into the dining room, I could feel immediately that nothing was the same, not because of anything I had done, because of how they were behaving. Garrett stood up the instant he spotted me and actually smiled. Sienna, wow, you look incredible. I had spent years being furniture at those dinners. Now I was being greeted. My father hugged me, which had not happened in years. Vivian touched my arm repeatedly throughout the meal, as though she needed the physical contact to convince herself we had always been close. And Garrett talked about the farm like a man discovering something for the first time. The place looks absolutely unreal online, he said. Madison keeps showing me the videos. You're killing it right now, as though it might evaporate next season. Thanks, I said. My father cleared his throat. Timothy Schaefer reached out to me last month. Something in my chest went cold. What? He wanted to discuss logistics partnerships connected to the expansion. Sharp guy. The way he said it bothered me deeply, as if the only thing that had made my business real was another businessman nodding at it. Later during dessert, Garrett leaned in closer. I've actually been thinking about ways I could get involved. Involved how? Helping you scale. I have connections with investors and branding people. I know expansion strategy. Somebody with corporate background could really help you at this level. I looked at him steadily. 3 years. 3 years of silence. Now he wanted a seat at my table. I already have a team, I said. He gave a thin smile. Sure, but family builds together. That word nearly made me set down my fork. Family. I left early again, but this time I drove home with anger instead of tears, because I had finally named what had always been true. My family had never assigned me value unless they believed I might be useful to them. The following 6 months were relentless. Spring 2025 transformed the farm into something I could not have pictured from that frozen bathtub. We hosted weddings almost every weekend. We launched a skincare collection. We entered partnerships with boutique hotel properties. Revenue reached $4.8 million by June. The farmhouse had been completely rebuilt from the inside out. But one thing remained exactly where I had left it. The original kitchen table, scratched and heavy and worn, where I had once sat counting out my last $12. I refused to replace it. That table was the only witness to who I had been before anyone believed I could become anything. Then the article dropped, June 14th, 2025. Forbes Online ran a feature titled, "The Woman Who Turned Dead Land into a Multi-Million-Dollar Lavender Empire." It spread everywhere within hours. That was the moment my family stopped pretending. My mother arrived at the farm 4 days later without a single message of warning. I was arranging ceremony chairs for a weekend wedding when her black Mercedes came up the drive. She stepped out, in designer sunglasses, wearing an expression that made clear this was not a social call. "Can we speak somewhere private?" I brought her to the porch. The moment we were seated, she removed her glasses. "Your brother is in serious financial trouble." No greeting, no congratulations. Straight to Garrett. "What happened?" I asked. "Cryptocurrency. Poor investments. He's under significant pressure." I waited. She folded her hands in her lap with great precision. "We believe it makes sense for Garrett to assume management of the property." I actually laughed once before I could stop it, because it sounded so completely absurd. Assume management of what? The farm? Her face stayed even. "This operation has grown beyond what you can carry alone. Garrett has the financial fluency and leadership experience to take it where it needs to go. I stared at her. I built this. Yes, but the property originated from your father's family. It was always understood it would remain connected to the Fry name, and there it was. After everything, after years of silence, after the humiliation of being handed a crumbling house with tax bills I could barely touch, after building every single acre of this into something real entirely on my own, they still believed they held authority over it. Over me. No, I said quietly. Vivian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Sienna, be rational. Rational? You handed Garrett close to $1 million and handed me a condemned structure and an overdue property tax bill. I created this business, in spite of every single one of you. And now that it matters, you want to deliver it to him? You're speaking from emotion. That sentence carved deeper than she understood. Every achievement in my life had been labeled emotional, while Garrett's failures were framed as strategy. I stood up slowly. You should go. Her posture shifted in an instant. You have 72 hours to reconsider before we take legal steps. Legal steps? Your father believes the original transfer documentation may have issues related to how inheritance was classified. I understood it the moment she said it. Garrett was drowning, and desperate people reach for whatever is closest. I walked to the edge of the porch and pointed toward the driveway. Leave now. She rose slowly. You're making a serious error. No, I said. You made yours 3 years ago when you handed me this land and assumed I would sink. She said nothing else. When her car disappeared past the tree line, I called Amanda immediately. By the time I finished explaining, Amanda had already reached her conclusion. Absolutely not. They have no standing, are you certain? Sienna, that transfer was legal, documented, notarized, and recorded. There is nothing to contest. This is theater. Then why threaten it at all? Because intimidation costs less than a court filing. I barely slept that night. Not from fear, from grief. Because somewhere underneath everything, a quiet part of me had been holding on to the possibility that my family would eventually choose to love me for who I actually was. That night, I accepted they never would. 72 hours later, Garrett appeared. His black truck rolled up to the front gate just before noon while visitors were drifting through the lavender rows with their phones out. He climbed down wearing sunglasses and polished boots, like he was arriving to review an asset that already had his name on it. I walked to the gate steadily. He smiled when I got close. Hey, sis, what are you doing here? His smile lost some of its confidence. Mom probably made it sound worse than it was. No. She was very precise. He exhaled like I was making things unnecessarily difficult. Look, what you've done here is genuinely impressive. No one is disputing that. But this thing is past the farm now. It needs real operational leadership. You mean yourself? I mean someone who understands how to manage assets at this level. I almost smiled. This was a man who had lost a fortune chasing crypto trends and still believed he was more equipped to run my business than I was. Do you want to know the part I find most remarkable? I asked. He waited. 3 years ago, my father described this as dead land. He said at minimum I couldn't damage anything important. Garrett shifted his weight. And now, it suddenly needs to be managed properly. He crossed his arms. This doesn't have to get messy. It already is. His expression sharpened. Dad is ready to pursue this legally. Then he should get ready to lose. Something behind his eyes flickered. I took one step forward. You went years without a single phone call. Not one visit. I was heating the farmhouse with space heaters and stretching $12 while you were posting from rooftop bars. I built this place on debt and exhaustion and stubbornness. You don't get to show up now and claim any part of it. People nearby had started to notice. Garrett dropped his voice. You're making a scene. No, I said. You're the scene. I'm just the property owner. His expression darkened. I reached into my wallet. From the thin slot behind my cards, I retrieved the folded sticky note I had carried every day for 3 years. I held it out. He took it and unfolded it slowly. Barely worth the Dad's handwriting. He would have recognized it anywhere. Garrett went still. I watched something move through him. Not guilt exactly, more like recognition. Like something that had always been slightly out of focus had finally come clear. I took the note back and folded it carefully. You buried me here because you believed nothing could grow. That was your error, not mine. Garrett looked out across the property. The visitors, the pavilion, the wedding setup, the long rows of lavender shifting in the afternoon breeze. Then he looked back at me with an expression I had never seen from him before. Not condescension, not competition. Something closer to genuine bewilderment. Like he could not locate the logic that explained how I had gotten here without any of their approval. He left 10 minutes later, no ultimatum, no raised voice, just quiet. 2 weeks after that, Amanda called. You're not going to believe this. What? Your father dropped everything just like that? Apparently Garrett persuaded him not to move forward. That surprised me more than the original threat had. A month later, Garrett called me directly. I picked up. I owe you an apology, he said. His voice was lower than I was used to hearing it. I said nothing. He exhaled slowly. I didn't see how differently they treated us. I think I just lived inside the advantage long enough that it became invisible to me. I had spent a long time nursing the anger, but I was also just tired of carrying it. Why the change? I asked. Because Dad offered to cover my losses if I helped push you out. And I sat with that for a while. And I realized he wasn't doing any of it for me. He was doing it because controlling the outcome is the only thing that makes him feel like himself. That stopped me completely. Because it meant Garrett had not only seen my experience, he had finally seen his own. We stayed on the phone for nearly an hour. Not as opponents, not as the chosen son and the overlooked daughter, just as two people shaped by the same household, in completely different ways, finally talking honestly about what that had cost each of us. Things did not transform overnight after that. My relationship with my parents never found solid ground again. My father still cannot acknowledge what I built without routing it through a business conversation. My mother still has no language for accountability. Some damage does not heal, the way we hope it will. But Garrett changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically. Genuinely, over time. The following spring, he drove up alone with 2 cups of coffee and showed up in old jeans with nothing to prove. Could you use an extra set of hands? He asked. I handed him a pair of gloves without a word. He worked 6 hours beside me without complaint. It was the most honest exchange we had ever had. Today, the farm covers nearly 20 acres after I purchased adjacent land. We host more than 40 weddings annually. Our lavender products ship across the country. We have 27 full-time employees. Last year, the business passed $8 million in revenue. But the number I return to most isn't the revenue figure. It's the table. When visitors walk through the renovated farmhouse and notice that one worn kitchen table that clearly doesn't match anything around it, they always ask why I kept it. I always smile before answering, because that table remembers who I was before a single person believed in me, and that version of me, the one counting $12 in a freezing kitchen with no one watching, earned everything that came after. She deserves to be remembered most of all,